If you remember where you were when you learned of the Chernobyl power plant disaster, raise your hand. Some of us do. I was 13 and I remember it very clearly. It was April 26th, 1986. As Moira mentioned, in exactly a week, it will be the 40th anniversary of what at that time was, and still is, the worst nuclear disaster in history. When technicians at Chernobyl power plant in Ukraine were doing an experimental shutdown of the reactor, it melted down, part of it exploded, and the core caught fire, and it sent radioactive material into a plume that began to blow over Europe. And then the winds changed, and it started to go back east, and it was headed toward Moscow, a city of, at that time, 8 million people. And so the Soviet government made a snap decision and decided to seed those toxic clouds so that they would precipitate before reaching that capital city. And so those toxic rains fell on the region of Bryansk, on towns and fields and forests. And that was just the heaviest toxicity fell onto a town of about 50,000 called Novozhivkov, just on the Russian side of the border. And the people of Novozhivkov were not informed. In fact, the Soviet government kept the Chernobyl disaster a secret from the whole world for several days. And so the children of Novozhivkov went out to play in that thick rain because it was white, it looked like snow, and nobody told them that what was falling down on them could kill them or cause long-term health impacts. And the people, and so in effect, they were sacrificed to save the Muscovites. They were treated as disposable. And in the years that followed, and right up until today, people there experience cancers, radiation sickness, heart issues. Children have been born with deformities and developmental delays. About 80% of the children now suffer from chronic diseases. And most of them also have what they pretty vaguely call neuropsychological disorders. And what's more, the exclusion zone, which is so radioactive that they are prohibited from entering it, begins just 1 kilometer from their city limits. So there have been cultural effects as well because they considered themselves people of the forest. And before the accident, every holiday, every weekend, they would be in the forest picnicking, walking, picking mushrooms. And they can no longer return there. Not in their lifetimes, not in their children's lifetimes, not in their children's children's lifetimes. Because this disaster is not in the past. The local food is as radioactive today as it was in 1986. So every time they're eating their own food, they're taking that in. And some of the most toxic contaminants will stay deadly for 240,000 years. I want that to sink in. There has been human civilization for 5 to 10,000 years. This is 240,000 years. So, and the other thing is that because of climate change, now, just as here, the forests are burning, And when the trees burn, the radiation that they absorbed gets released back into the atmosphere, and that's the air that they're breathing today. And so the people of Novozibkov continue to be affected by this still unfolding disaster, and they will be for as long as we can imagine. And the reactor itself requires constant tending for as long as we can imagine as well, to prevent another catastrophe. So that's the story of Novozibkov. And now you may be wondering, well, where does the Elm Dance come in? Because in a few minutes, I'm going to invite us all to dance the Elm Dance together in solidarity with the people of Novozibkov. The outside world prefers to think that Chernobyl is over, and our governments continue to build more nuclear reactors. So we dance the Elm Dance so that the suffering of the people of Novozibkov is not forgotten. And as we do that, we join a tradition that has been alive around the world now for 34 years. So I want to tell you the story of that Elm Dance tradition. It began in 1992 with a beautiful human named Joanna Macy. She was the US-based root teacher in the Work That Reconnects, also known as Active Hope. And some of you may know this work, may be involved in sharing it, because I had the good fortune of spending 40 days in total learning from Joanna, and I and others have brought this work to Neighbourhood. And it's a body of work that invites us to turn our inner responses to the state of the world into empowerment to care for our world. That's our mission here at Neighbourhood. Joanna died last July 19th, and so I want to dedicate our Elm Dance today to her memory. And so the story goes that Joanna was traveling with her husband Fran, offering workshops to support people living in areas that had been contaminated by Chernobyl 6 years before. And their aim was not to take away the suffering of the people, because Joanna said, well, that would be presumptuous on our part. But she said, these are her words, what we can do, she said, is look together at two main ways that we respond to collective suffering. She said, suffering can bring forth from people new strengths and solidarity, or it can breed isolation and conflict, turning them against one another. She says there is always a choice. I put those words up. I think they're so important, and because they're so relevant to us today, where many of us around the world are turning against one another as conditions on the planet worsen. And after Chernobyl, people also did turn against one another, and there was conflict in families and within communities. And so Joanna and Fran were giving workshops together across the region with their Russian friends to support people to come together and be with the suffering, face together what had befallen them. And the others on Joanna's team spoke Russian, but Joanna had to work through interpreters. So she brought the Elm Dance as a way that she could share something without words. And they toured those Chernobyl-affected areas, and as they did so, the last town that they came to was Novozibkov. It was the one where people had been most impacted by the radiation. They had been sacrificed by their government without their knowledge. And there too, Joanna danced the Elm Dance with them, and they loved it so much that they danced it not just once, but twice a day. And it was there that the dance morphed into its current form with the swaying of the arms, like the swaying of the trees in the forest that they loved so much but could no longer enter. And by the end of the 3-day workshop, Joanna had fallen in love with the people of Novozibkov. She was deeply touched by their story, moved by their plight, and especially by how they felt forgotten by the world. And so she made a promise to them that wherever she went, she would tell their story. And so she started to do that. Whenever she taught or gave workshops, she would bring their story by dancing the Elm Dance. And what I should say is that I danced the Elm Dance with Joanna maybe 40 times, and it's my first time sharing it with others. What Joanna maybe couldn't have predicted was how the practice really took off and took a life of its own. And people started making copies of the cassette at that time and sharing it, not only in workshops, but in protests and direct actions. They would encircle bulldozers to stop them from taking down trees. It was embraced by people in the post-Soviet countries and by Aboriginal Australian Aborigines alike. And there are other Unitarian Universalist congregations that have adopted it as a practice. So today, when we dance the Elm Dance together, we'll be holding the hands not only of each other in the circle, but also of Igor, Olga of Novozibkov, and also of all of those for the last 34 years, the activists and lovers of life who have danced the dance and maybe are dancing it somewhere on the planet today. The music that we'll dance to is, it was released in 1989, and it was a popular song in Latvia. In the late 80s and 90s. It was originally a song of the cultural resistance movement against Soviet occupation. So it's a song for liberation and interdependence, and apparently it has a lot of double meanings and hidden meanings. I haven't put the lyrics up, but if you want a translation, the link is there, or you can come and ask me. The lyrics are by Maris Melgalvs, the music by Yuris Kulikovs, the vocals by Yeva Akuratere. I don't speak Latvian, so sorry if I'm mispronouncing. The song itself is not about elms. It actually mentions oak trees. But we call it the Elm Dance because the original dance was choreographed to that music by a Latvian-German woman named Anastasia Gang. And she created 38 dances that correspond to the Bach flower remedies. Some of you may know those. They were developed by an English doctor, Edward Bach, when he was able to cure himself of terminal spleen cancer through flower essences. And of the 38 dances, the Elm Dance, according to the Bach Center, is, I quote, the remedy for people suffering a temporary loss of confidence due to the overwhelming amount of responsibility they have taken on. I can relate to that. The remedy helps to dispel these feelings so we can resume our lives without thought of failure. And so in Joanna's words, the Elm Dance is for gathering intention. It's to strengthen our capacity to choose a purpose and to follow through on that resolve that our hearts have made. It's a simple dance. If you can walk, you can dance. And for those who do not want to be on the feet, on your feet, we have options. So I'm going to teach it. Moira and I will demonstrate it. We'll all try it without the music, and then we'll dance 3 rounds. And the 3 rounds, first we'll do it in silence. If I can have that slide, Carlos. The first one will be in silence, and that will be an opportunity really to arrive, to land in the movements, in the music, to feel our connection, to feel whatever feelings come up, and all feelings are welcome here. Then there'll be a pause, and I'll state this invitation so you don't have to remember it. But I'll invite you throughout the second round to call out loud with your voices, or you can also do it inside. Call by name those parts of our world, beings, places, institutions that you're concerned about and for which you desire protection and healing. And then there'll be a pause. And the third round will be for naming out loud our joys, the things that bring us gladness and gratitude for being alive on earth. And so you can see that it's a bit of a joys and concerns for those of you who cherish that practice. We'll be doing it differently. When Joanna did it, she would do the 2 first rounds, but I didn't invent the 3 rounds. Other facilitators of the work do have it exactly like this. So we'll be doing that variation. And so let me give you some quick tips, then we'll demonstrate. So it's very simple. We'll be holding hands in a circle if that feels comfortable. And everything starts with the right foot. Everything is on a count of 4, and there are 4 directions of walking. So the first one is right foot backwards and to the right in a counterclockwise circle. And then we sway with the right, always right first, right, 2, 3, 4. Then front, leading with the right foot, 2, 3, 4. And then sway, 2, 3, 4, and then forward, 2, 3, 4, raising our hands, and backward, 2, 3, 4. So it's backward, forward, inward, and backward into the circle again. And so let's demonstrate, Moira. On this next side, we have the actual steps. And we will show them. So starting with the right foot, there will be 4 beats before we begin, and we'll begin with the right foot. I'll cue us in. Right, 2, 3, 4. Backwards first, and then sway right, 2, 3, 4, and right foot, 2, 3, 4. Forwards and to the right, and again sway, 2, 3, 4, and then forward, 2, 3, 4, raising our hands, and then releasing the hands and swaying like those trees. For 4, and then coming back, right foot leading, 2, 3, 4, and again sway, 2, 3, 4. Pretty simple, right? And we're going to try it first. So thank you, Moira. I'd first like to invite anyone who wants to participate in the dance but doesn't want to do it on their feet. We'll have an option for you to sit in the middle, and you can still move your body in whatever way feels good, still call out. So please raise your hand if you'd like to be in the middle, on a chair, on a walker perhaps, and we'll get you what you need and bring you in. Yes, 1, 2. Okay? And for those of you on Zoom, Whether you're here today with us live or watching the recording, you can do this wherever you are in your own room. I have done it virtually, and it is also a powerful practice. Is everyone who wants to be in the middle in the middle? Okay, thank you. All right, so in a moment, I'm going to invite all of us, all of the rest of us, to stand up and form, we might need 2 circles, and you want a good step in between the 2 circles. I'll be in the inner circle, Moira will be in the outer circle. And you want to have your arms kind of comfortably, not too extended and not too close either. So maybe one more in the inner circle. Can we have some? There we go. Okay, how's that? Let's. Okay, great. So. Well, the music will start with a few beats, and then you'll start with your right foot. I'm going to exaggerate my feet, but you don't have to. Start with the right foot, going backwards and to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then plant your right foot, sway to the right, left, and front right foot to the front. 3, 4, right foot down, sway to the right, left, and in 2, 3, 4. Release the hands and sway right, 2, 3, 4, and then back, and taking hands again, 2, 3, 4, and sway right, 2, 3, 4. How did you feel there? You're quite crowded in. We're right nose to nose with you. So we're taking very small steps in the inner circle. How did that feel? Do we want to do it again? Yeah? And I think we could use maybe one more person in the inner circle. It feels a little stretched here. Any other adjustments? And there are no mistakes, only variations. Okay. All right. So there'll be 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then right foot and back to the right, 2, 3, 4. Plant your right foot, sway right, 2, 3, 4. Right foot forward, 2, 3, 4. Plant your right foot, sway right, 2, 3, 4, and right in, 2, 3, 4. Release hands, sway right, 2, 3, 4, and back with the right foot, 2, 3, 4, and sway right, 2, 3, 4. I think we're ready to take. Are we ready? Okay, so before we put the music on, I'm going to invite us just to take a moment to land fully, feel our feet on the ground, on that living body of earth. See if you can feel energy rising up from the earth, up through your feet, your legs, into your heart, and perhaps out of your heart for the healing of the world. And as you breathe, you can notice your hands in the hands of your neighbors. See if you can feel that connection in our circle. And you can imagine that these hands are also Igor's hands, Olga's hands in Novozibkov. And that we're also part of all those circles of dancers around the world for the last 34 years. We're dancing with that wider community of lovers of life. And this first round will be in silence, an invitation simply to feel and connect. Carlos, whenever you're ready. And right foot back. And throughout this second round, I invite you to call out the names of those places on earth you love and for which you would like protection and healing. People, places, institutions. And right. The rule of law.
Teu
oceans. The children. And in this third round, the invitation is to call out the names of those things that bring us joy and gratitude to be alive on the planet. And right, left. Butterflies. Babies. Singing. Marriage. Massages. And let's stay here for a moment just to marinate in all the gratitudes as we breathe, feeling our connection to the earth. And if you like, you can open your eyes and look around this circle. This is never coming back. This exact configuration, these exact people. And if you like, you can release hands and feeling your connection to the earth. You can bow to the earth, and if it's comfortable, if it's available, you can reach down and perhaps touch the earth, or even kneel on the earth, or even prostrate if that feels good for you. And we'll take a couple of breaths here with the earth. And coming back in your own time. And a bow to each other. And I invite you in silence back to your seats.